Yes, I. Olá a todos e bem-vindos a mais um podcast Very Important Preto com o vosso verdadeiro Fernando Cabral, e hoje estou muito feliz por ter comigo os meus primeiros convidados internacionais, um casal maravilhoso que acabou de chegar a Lisboa, DubFx, a.k.a. Benjamin,
Yo!
e essa sua linda e maravilhosa Sahida. Eu hoje vou fazer o podcast em inglês, portanto vamos a isso. Guys, welcome to the podcast. And
Thanks,
for those who
Fernando.
don't know you, can you just introduce yourself? Who's DubFx and Sahida?
Apsara. She is Sahida Apsara is the
Yes.
full stage name.
Yes, nice to be here, Fernando. It's nice to
Thank you.
hear you speak Portuguese.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, man. Super excited.
No problem. So DubFx, come from Australia, beatboxer. How do you introduce yourself to the guys?
I'm a man of the world. My mum's Italian and my dad's Australian, and I grew up in both countries while I was a kid. And I don't feel like I'm Italian or Australian. I feel like I feel European, but I don't feel like I fit in anywhere, to be honest. When you're young and you grow up in lots of different places and you move around a lot, you sort of see these cultures from a different lens because you don't feel like you're a part of that culture because you've already been exposed to another culture as a little kid. So you're able to be like, oh, you guys all do the same shit. And you think you're all really cool doing that, but then you go somewhere else to another country and you're like,
Well,
oh, you
it's
guys are all the same.
completely different, yeah.
And so you kind of get this different perspective. You're like, oh, everyone's just copying everybody. But if you grew up in only that situation, you wouldn't realize it. You just go with the flow and you copy everybody. You know what I mean? That's kind of anyway, that's a
Yeah.
long way of saying that I'm half Australian, half Italian.
Yeah, and it's like this place of not really feeling that you belong anywhere. Like you really are a citizen of the world, you know, and trying to figure out what your identity is the process of you discovering the truth of who you are. Because if you just become who your parents or who your culture expect you to be, then, you know, you're not really authentic in who you are. For me, my dad is Indian. My mom is half Malaysian, half Thai. And my dad's dad was from India. My dad was born in Singapore, and I was born in Singapore. But then I spent my time in Malaysia growing up. But then when I was 20, I was like so wanting to discover who I am beyond the cultural expectation of an Indian Muslim girl, you know. So I left and I went to Australia, and I traveled. I went to India, Thailand. I was a gypsy for many, many years. Yeah. So again, I can't answer that question.
It's funny.
Straightforward.
We were both gypsies in different ways. You know, I was gypsy, street performing, living in a van. I mean, obviously not a real gypsy, like from the actual gypsies, but I lived in a van and street performed around the world, and she also did the same thing, traveled
But
around.
I wanted to ask you, how did you start with the street performance thing? Because I read like Wikipedia, of course, DubFx.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. Yeah, they speak about a band called Twitch.
Oh, that's all true. No, it's all kind of true, but it's just like weirdly written, so it sounds different to how it was.
Somebody written that.
Yeah, no, so basically, I don't know. I was in lots of different bands growing up from high school, and one of the bands was like this metal kind of, it was like a dubby metal band, sort of like, I don't know, Tool or 311 or Linkin Park, like Korn. It was like a mishmash of lots of stuff that we were listening to. I wasn't so much into the metal stuff, but the rest of the guys in the band were. I was into like reggae and Cuban jazz and
techno. I was going to ask you, how did you get into reggae? It's like...
Well, that was because my dad... I showed my dad Sublime, you know the band Sublime from California. And I'm like, hey, listen to this. And he's like, I'm like, this is reggae. He's like, he listens to it. He's like, that's not reggae. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'm like, this is reggae. He's like, no, it's not. And the next day he brought home Bob Marley Legend.
Okay, that's
like,
reggae.
That's reggae. I'm like, ah. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, can I swear? I'm sorry.
You can.
I'm like, what's this? Like, it sounded so backwards and different to me. Because, you know, anyway. So that was how I got into reggae. I was about 14. Mm-hmm. How I got into street performing, I was in all these different bands. I decided to leave Australia because I was in this metal band, but I was also singing with these jazz kind of guys doing improvisation stuff, like doing these really cool gigs. It was like a mix of hip hop and jazz and reggae sort of thing, but it was very, very like free. And then I was also in this sort of hip hop soul R&B style band where I wasn't the front man of that.
But you were singing, or you were already with the beatboxing and stuff?
So in all of those bands, I was mainly singing or rapping, and freestyling and things like that. But I also already was using the effects pedal over my voice. So I had this guitar pedal because I bought this guitar pedal because I was so bad at playing guitar. I thought if I put lots of effects over it, it'll sound better. And that's what it is. It's
then
like
you
a
put your
talent
voice
box.
instead of the guitar?
Because I couldn't sing. So I was like, if I can't sing, maybe I'll put some reverb and delay over it and it'll sound better. So that's literally how I started doing it. And then I was in all these and then I got good at it, and I was in all these different bands. I was the guy that they're like, yeah, get him, because he's like, I can do all these different things. I could change my voice to sound like a high voice, low voice, do all these delays. I would whistle like a with all these big fat reverbs and delays, and I'd create these sounds. I was kind of like this sprinkly kind of guy.
But you found out those sounds just experimenting, trying. Because when I saw you live, I was always like, how did you like what you do, like the stuff like that?
That stuff.
I was like, how did you find that, like to record this? You just try it.
I just mess around. Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in making sounds and doing stuff. Like when I was a kid, I was playing with G.I. Joes, and I was like with the
Okay.
So I was always making sounds like that, and I love that guy from Police Academy.
Yeah, the one. Yeah.
What was his name? Something about
Brown.
Radio Brown or something.
Radio. Yeah, he does all the sounds.
Can't remember his. Yeah. So I remember. I loved that guy as well. So I was always trying to imitate him as well. But I never thought I would do it or anything like that. It was just something. It was a fun hobby. And then in high school, I started, we all got into freestyling, at lunchtime, in our break. And I would be the guy that made the beat, and I would just go, and then I started going, and I started experimenting, and then, and I started, and I just got better at it, so I was doing that stuff with my friends just for fun while they freestyled. And then I was in this metal band, I was in this jazz band, I was in this hip hop band, and then I started taking drugs and going to raves and listening to techno music. Sorry for the kids.
Did that open your mind?
Well, yeah, I was like, oh my god, there's techno and there's drum and bass and all these other things and stuff, and I was like, this is so different. And so I started emceeing over breakbeat and house music in clubs as well. This is when I was 18. Okay. So I was doing all these different things, jazz, metal, reggae, soul.
Yeah, because you
go
to all the
genres.
Exactly.
And I loved it all. And then when I was about 23 or 22, I was like, I got to get out of Australia because I didn't feel like anything was going to happen for me in Australia. I was doing all these different things, but I just felt like I just didn't have the right connections or something. And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? Because I read about some artist went and did like this street performing sort of, and street performed around the world and then wrote this amazing album, got signed by a label and became a huge star, right? I think that was the Coldplay dude. I can't remember. Someone did that. So I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go travel around Europe. I'm going to have all this life experience, go on this
journey.
Get
a record deal.
Street perform, and then come home and have this record deal because I'll write this amazing album and I'll be the biggest star in the world.
That's a nice vision. You had that vision.
That was my vision. And I didn't, because when you're that age, there was no, the internet was so like, there was no social media. There was MySpace had just started. That was it.
Your MySpace, man.
Yeah. So there was no alternative to being signed by a record label and being on the radio. That was how you made it, right? And that's what I wanted to do. I was watching MTV as a kid. So I went over to Europe and I met my mum in Italy again because I, hadn't seen her in a few years at that point. And I was jamming around with some friends there and I'm like, I'm going to start street performing. So I bought a little PA speaker and I had this effects pedal and I had this album that I'd already recorded, like a solo album, which was like a mishmash of my stuff.
That was what, 2006?
Okay. And I was like, so I played this backing track and then I'd sing and play guitar on my little speaker with my little battery, and I took it out into the streets of Lucca. The first day I went street performing, I made like 280 euros.
Without knowing how to play guitar, without knowing how to sing.
Well, I wasn't good at it. I'd been playing guitar and singing in bands back in Australia, so it wasn't new to me or anything like that. But the street performing was new to me, and so I just played this backing track. I'd sing my song, and
$200.
Yeah, 280 euros, man. That was more than I made in a week.
And you were how old?
20. I was like 22, 23. So, and that was more than I made in a week working in a cafe in Australia, which is what I was doing before.
So you was like, this is the magic formula.
I was like, this is what I'm going to do forever. If I can make 280 euros a day.
In like 2 hours.
In like 2 hours, exactly. So I was like, this is me. This is what I'm going to do now. And I was burning my own CDs on these little CDs that looked like vinyls. Do you remember those? It was like a blank CD and you could burn whatever and it looked like a vinyl. So I'd write my name on it. And then I had a stamp, which I got made for me. And the stamp was the perfect size for the CD cover. So I'd stamp the CD cover.
But it was DubFx already?
No, I was just going by the name Benjamin because I didn't. That was it. That was because it's my name, right? Benjamin. And I was like, because there's Ben Harper, there's Ben Folds 5, there's
but
Ben.
It was Ben Jamming?
No, just Benjamin.
Okay.
I should have done Ben Jammin'. That would have been way cooler because it was me jamming on the street. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. What I thought.
So it was just Benjamin, and then I sold loads of CDs doing that. And
in London?
No, this was in Italy. In Lucca and Pisa and Florence and stuff. And then what happened was I had one song in the set which I did all with my vocals, and I recorded when I recorded in the studio, it was just my vocals layering themselves because I loved Bobby McFerrin as well, and he did that, right? Who does that. So I recorded it, and I was like, how am I going to do this live? And I saw this guy in Australia called Mal Webb, who's a vocalist, looper, does lots of crazy stuff with his voice. He's amazing. He's like Aphex Twin mixed with Mary Poppins. Like, he's the craziest.
Aphex Twin with Mary Poppins.
Exactly, because he mixes like kids stuff.
True, actually, that's good.
He mixes kids stuff in with all this crazy sciencey stuff, and it sounds so whack and anyway. And he did it all with just a loop station with no effects, just a microphone and an effects pedal. A microphone and a loop station. And I was like, oh my God, because I've been using an effects pedal over my voice for like 4 years at this point.
And then you discovered the looping.
I'm like, if I could put the effects pedal going into the loop station, I could create even more crazy stuff because I could make bass sounds. I was already making bass sounds with the pedal. Like I would go do 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 doom doom, and I'd have like this synthesizer come out of the pedal that goes like it would sound like a real bass. And in a jazz band, actually, I would do these bass solos pretending to be. So I was already making bass sounds. I was already doing all this stuff, and I was already beatboxing. I just wasn't recording it live in the moment and looping it.
The looping was like...
As soon as I saw the loop station, I was like, oh my God, that's the final piece of the puzzle. So my dad bought me the loop station for Christmas when I was 22. I went to Italy, and this one song in the set, I was looping the song. I just did this one song. It was called Concord. And whenever I did that song, everyone was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And they would all dance to this song. And then I'd go back
on the street?
Yeah. And then on the backing track, when I put the backing tracks, people were just like, oh yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? So then I realized, okay, what do? I should just
make more songs like that.
Exactly. So what I did was I started beatboxing. I beatbox a beat, and then I just play guitar and sing and do like covers over the top, like singing all different songs just with my beatboxing, and people loved that. And then one day, when I got to Manchester, I moved. So I went from Italy to England to visit this girl that I'd been seeing in Australia. And I was like, I'm going to go busking in Manchester. And I went into Manchester and I went to Piccadilly Gardens, the main area. And I was like, oh my God, if I take all my equipment here, someone is going to rob me because it's full of rude boys. And I'm like, fuck, I got to bring like minimal equipment. Otherwise, it's just not going to, it could go badly. So I was like, you know what I'll do? And I was also, this is the other thing. I met this guy there and I was playing in my music and he's like, I don't like it. And I was like, what do you mean? This is the album that I recorded that I was singing backing tracks like on the street to.
The one that everyone loved.
People like the one with the voice, the only one song, they liked that. Well, the people in Italy liked my whole record actually. But in Manchester, everyone was like, nah, I don't like it. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, it's too nice. I'm like, what do you mean it's too nice? He's like, it just sounds just too nice. It's just like white boy reggae from like 15 years ago. In Italy, everyone was like, this is like 10 years ahead. And in England, everyone was like, this is 10 years behind. You know what I mean? Exactly. So I was like, all right. So I was like, what do I do? So I went out into the street and I was like, I'll just bring the loop station and just the effects pedal and I'll just try and do an hour of music with just seeing what happens, improvising and stuff like that. And that was the first time I ever did it. And I did it in the street in front of just like 5 people, like nobody was really paying attention. And then this one little kid comes up to me with dreadlocks and he's like, yeah, man, do that beat you were doing before. I'm like, which one? He's like, the one that was like the boom, the boom, cap, boom, the boom, cap. And I was like, because I did a beat like that, right? But it just was this world rhythm. Because the only thing I had in my brain was like world music, because like Bobby McFerrin looping with the vocals. I didn't think, you can make hip hop, you can make drum and bass, all this stuff. So I was just trying to do all this world rhythm stuff on the street. And he's like, no, do that dirty beat you done before. I'm like, okay. So I recorded a... He's like, give me the microphone. I give him a mic, and he starts going, wah, 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 wah. And I recorded that, and as soon as he heard the loop kick in, he started going, he started like doing this like toasting and power over the top. Ragamuffin stuff. And as soon as he did that, like everyone just started crowding around us. Like it went from like 15 people who were just sort of sitting there eating their lunch going, who the fuck's this guy? To like 200 people going, jumping. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, oh, you could do this on the street? Like you can do like gangster rhythm shit. Like I was like, okay. And then
let's get dirty then.
And we did this jam that lasted like 3 hours, right? Until the battery died on the thing. And everyone wanted to get up on the microphone. We had all kinds of people come through, jump on the microphone. And I didn't do anything that day. I literally was just watching and observing. And every now and then they'd be like, change the beat. Like, okay. So I'd make a new beat. And then they'd be like, all right, give me the mic. And then they would all do it. And so I just sat there and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this from now on. At the end of the show, right? I was like, what's your name, man? To this guy. And he's like, Banton Killer. I'm like, Banton Killer, cool name. I'm like, what's your name? To the other guy. He's like, Hurricane. I'm like, okay, cool. They're like, what's your name? I'm like, Benjamin. And they were laughing. They laughed at me, and I'm like, And then I remember that back in Australia, I always wanted to start like a dub band, like doing dub with the delays and stuff. And I wanted to call it DubFx. So I was like, DubFx. And they're like,
it
man,
came out
cool.
to
It just popped in my brain because I was looking at my beats that were like dubby beats with the effects pedal, and it just made sense, you know. So I was like, dubby beats with DubFx, and I said DubFx, and they're like, yeah, man, cool.
Beats with effects.
That's what it was, and they were like, okay, cool, yeah, sweet, DubFx. I'll see you next time, man. And that was it. I went home, I created a DubFx MySpace page, and that was it. I just started doing that, and every day I went out in the street, and I'd get rude boys coming up to me going, yo, do a grain beat, do a dubstep beat, do a this beat, and I'm like, what's that? I don't know what that is. And they show me on their phones, and I just try and remake it, and that's literally how it started. So it all actually really began in Manchester.
Ok, so Manchester, let's go to... Só vou deixar aqui a dica, portanto, que a escolha musical, the playlist was chosen by Benjamin DubFx. So now we go to England with Dizzy Rascal.
Yo, manifested this one man come through in all black, I just nicked something limelight robber, the limelight tea for them man are busy running on the reefer. They never got the memo that I fell up from the south spitting ether. So either they deaf or they dumb, if neither they mocking it. They rocket side city for the feature, they gimmicky, they relevant for now with no longevity. The remedy for that is how you body rhythm readily. So whoa, I ain't got to study how another brother flow. Listen to a legend, make a better rapper grow. Better for competitors entering with a pro. Swinging with a Donny, you're swinging without a G. Man's really in a hurry to build up another lead. Really in another lead, looking at the esteem, considering every challenge resulting in a defeat. They beat the beat, I eat the beat, then beat the beat, I treat the beat right, I beat the beat boss betray me and die. You be the bold cat, you're in between fight. Running amok, I'd rather be shutting down. She's sucking a satin and then she ducking out. I done a show with the baddest man about. I turn a gunner into a daffodil. The man, they're old in L's, the man ain't old in Z's. And that's fact, them man, I already tell them I'm too much for them try rev. Like, why you try rev? About revving my face on a Sunday till I hit man with the awkward leg. Awkward elbow, top of the head, like boom, bow. Put him to bed, like Joe Rogan. Said a man like me ain't seen that in 1,000 fights. Man got clocked with a vibrant right and a hesitant left. Is a man still alive? Watch how I jump on a tune with Dill. On a real deal, them man all hype. Got a man feeling all diddy and white. No diddy, no dally, I flick out the light. Why you try rev? Why you try rev? Why you try rev? Why you try rev? About revving my face on a Sunday till I hit man with the awkward leg, awkward elbow, top of the head, like boom, bow, put him to bed. Why you try rev?
How you gonna come and try rev? How you gonna act like I'm not ahead and you're stuck on the red? You're easily red like you're playing dead. I'm a rebel, I'm ready whenever my level is heavy. You're light as a feather, I beg. Begging, no, I'm a celeb, but I'm dreading. I'll put you to bed for some shit that you should've just thought what you said. Cause you're a pleb. Only concern should be getting this bread. Are you pulling my leg? Gone in the head. Copper and lead, he dropped and he bled. Go get a doctor, I sent for the med. You should've fled. Dylan departed. Look what you gone and you started. You bumper clock. Should've been smart, but you were retarded instead. Use your brain, don't lose your lane. Maintain, refrain from saying my name, and I'll do the same. And everything will be right as rain. Don't go against the grain, cause I could get a little off the chain. Gassed up on my own, no shame, like I'm off the mains. They're looking at me like I'm at the wrong stop, and I got no ticket, I'll just hop the train. What have I got to gain? Already gained the fame, already copped the range. I come through like Doctor Strange. Tell a lame, miss me with the games, I don't entertain. Cocaine flow in your vein, but I bring the pain. Give me the long story short, don't make me strain, so I can see it all clear and plain. I'm not a plain Jane, I got Jane insane, hopping on the cane. She give me top, then I rock it again. She give me bright and dome, I'm up bright and early with a brighter bone. Even when I'm in Rome, I feel right at home. The beat got me in a tighter zone. I could've jumped in your heart, but I like my own. And I'm kinda grown, I heard ocean wisdom. Said somebody better get that boy on the phone. Let him do what he does, don't change one tone, just leave him alone.
Why you try rev? Why you try rev? Why you try rev? Why you try rev? About revving my face on a Sunday till I hit man with the awkward leg, awkward elbow, top of the head, like boom, bow, put him to bed. Why you try rev? 18, I was 8 deep with a break beat lately. Man, I made P from a G. Hopefully, man, I wrote down a couple notes for me. Oh, did he not? He don't know about me. Okay, low kitty, man, and know me and then glow belly fan them and roll for me. Eyes on the beat. Okay, man, and one show for me. They're a dope body, by the way they facilitate what I do. Bait and an antidote for me. We be high road for me, and I didn't ride out on a waste man wave. It's a wild world, buddy. You should put it done for me. I'll be showing you the ropes where you're trying to just rave. Why help bodies where I'm not that gully when you could be summoning the best of the greats? No cells, dummy, that is not that funny when you got to rely on the O for the cake. They'll fuck it, then my phone, I get a day away. I get up and I made a paper, then I get the present on a puss. Luckily, the way they gravitate to what I'm doing, got them reaching in their pocket, dedicated to the cause. Cause they feel a man, I follow man, I run around, I city like an animal, I put them on a pause. Cause they man and one is raw, as they thought they was. I'm on a Wu-Tang vibe on tour, better spliff and let me talk. I ain't fiddling with pork, licking on a line, ripping something broad, that's savagery. Man been on it since Mark and Valerie. This bar cost man calories, smashing it high. You bank swag, get a bang in the mouth. Junior swag, hold 25 more.
Rascal Ocean Wisdom, Revan, we were speaking about England and how you got the DubFx going on, starting. So from then on with the money, did you start already the label, the idea of making your own music and stuff?
So, yeah, I mean, just to rewind 1 second, when I was on the street, lots of kids would come up to me and rap just like this, which is why I chose this song as well, because it was like, that's what, I was like, whoa. I'd never heard anyone do that, right? And so, you know, that's it. But yeah, so what I did was, when I started doing DubFx, it was like... the funny thing was, I was still selling the old record, the one that everyone thought was too nice.
Okay.
So for the first 6 months, I was still selling that. So people would buy, they would see me on the street freestyling and doing grime and all this stuff. They'd buy my record and then they'd listen to something that was
like, shit, the wrong guy.
So what I did was there was some of the songs were okay, were kind of cool. And then what I did was I recorded.
Do you still have
somewhere? It's out there. It's still that original one is somewhere. I'm sure I've got it. Something happened.
That was me. Okay, come.
Oh, good. So, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So then I went to a festival and I just recorded a live set at a festival in front of a crowd. And then I cut that together and I put that in the same recording. And then that's what I was selling for a while. And I was selling them for £5 on the street. And I would sell 30, 40, 50 CDs.
A day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I bought a van and I started moving around so there was no label or idea of a label. What I was trying to do is just trying to figure out what DubFx was, who I was, and because I didn't realize that at first, I had this kind of Australian immature kind of idea of what people want, what people like. It's like in Australia, people do like commercial sort of very nice, put together stuff. In the UK, people want like something.
Hardcore
They want raw. They don't. It doesn't even have to be hard. It just has to be raw. It has to be real. It can't be something that's a product. It has to be genuine, but something original.
Authentic.
Yeah, authentic and original. Something that's not a copy of something. And that's what the stuff before that was. And so this DubFx thing, no one had seen that before. They're like, yeah, cool, we like this. And so I just kept going on and on and on with that idea and that sound. And I did the maths. I was like, man, I'm selling like 40, 50 CDs a day. If I do this for 4 or 5 years, I will have sold like thousands and thousands and thousands of records.
It's funny you speak about that because I work with a French guy called Vanupier, and he plays in the subway in Paris, and he sold like when I first met him, he sold like 10,000 records.
Yeah.
Just in the subway in Paris in 2 or 3 years, but just like that. So I know that's what you thought. I can live off this.
Totally. I mean, and that's the thing. And I was like, well, and I was also like, but that means I'm going to have a huge fan base if I keep doing this. And eventually, I'm like, I don't even need to be on the radio. I don't even need to be on, do any of this stuff. So I was doing that, and I kind of like, all right, if I just keep going. And the thing was, I actually got better at it, and I started selling even more CDs for even more money. So then I made a record, Live in the Street, which is like the one that's like an official original DubFx record. And that one there, I would sell for €10. I got it pressed up, and I would sell like 50, 60 or 70, sometimes 100.
But you were already experimenting with all different kinds, doing from reggae to dubstep to drum and bass and stuff?
Well, the thing was, because it was only beatbox and looping, it's very limited what I can do as a beatboxer and what you can do with like a 4-bar loop. Like reggae music, you kind of need all the fills and, you need to change things up. And so I would try to emulate something that I liked. So I'd take like the idea of a reggae beat, like like that's kind of a one-drop rhythm, right?
But you won't have the skank. How did you do this?
No, I mean with like I'd do like it, with compression and EQ and with like auto wah, you can actually get like something that it doesn't ever sound like a guitar though. But I could do things like
But for me, it's incredible. I can't imagine the amount of work and of trying that you did to finally get the sound that you did. It must have taken like years to
Not really. No, what I learned was, this is the thing, right? So the core DubFx sound that ended up coming out was I realized that if I make a fat punchy beat, like a something like, or which is like that grime sound, or right? I just loop that. Then what I do is I'll put like a melodic, warm bass line. Like,
man, we don't have a loop station here.
That's all right. So a warm melodic bass line over that funk, crunchy beat. And then what I could do is I'd make these high-pitched sounds, like with lots of reverb and delay. Sorry, lots of reverb and delay. It's like this high-pitched noise, like a sample. And then what I would do is put loads of reverb and delay over my vocal, but put a low-pass filter over the delay and reverb. So instead of going ga 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 ga,
you're a genius,
it's like it goes ga hoo, 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 right? The low-pass filter kind of filters the top end and the sort of the frequencies of the delay, and it makes it sound almost like a keyboard underneath. Because I go whoa, and then underneath it goes like that's the kind of delay that would come. So, and it would basically fill this gap. So they've got the up the top. I've got the beat, the punchy, the bass down low, and then my vocals singing in the middle. But then with a low pass filter over the delays, it would almost sound like there's a keyboard or a guitar accompanying me, and I could fill this full spectrum out. And this is with a tiny little speaker. And I just I figured that out, the sonic spectrum of how I could make my music sound full and complete and sound like a fully polished track, just using these few little elements. And then obviously by changing the key, changing a few little elements in the effects, I was able to make it sound like all these. And obviously the tempo of the song, I learned, because what I would do is I'd start like with a beat, like a big hip-hop beat, like 95.
I was going to ask you, like how you figure it out. You make the beat and then you make the lyrics on top of it? You get the lyrics?
No, and all the lyrics that I was singing were all songs that I'd already written for my old album, which nobody liked. Okay. I just recycled the lyrics and recycled the melodies, but you put them over you put the same lyrics and melody over a fat, heavy beat, and everyone's like, that's so cool and original. Literally.
Before they were saying that.
But that's because the sounds that I was using before was
Okay.
just very middle of the road, sort of very pedestrian sound.
So that's when you released your first DubFx album, the one that I know it said that
Live in
all
the
the
Street.
beats stuff thing were made by you.
Yeah, well, okay, so Live in the Street was the first one. Then I went into the studio after I made that, and I was like, oh, okay, I should make a proper studio album. And then I totally messed that one up. Like, I made that album's called Everything's a Ripple. The songwriting, I believe, is good. Like, I still sing all those songs, and I still think the lyrics and the melodies are good. But with the production, because I didn't know what I was doing, I just quantized everything too much. Like, rather, in the loop station, you can't quantize anything. You record the beat, and it just the way you make it in that moment is what gets looped.
What come out.
And that's the dirtiness of it, and it sounds
the
really
studio,
funky.
you
In the studio, I chopped everything up into every little sound, and then I put everything on the grid. I didn't know that that's not what you should do. I was like, no, it needs to be perfect because I can do it perfectly in the studio. That's what I was trying to do. Because in my metal band, that's what we were doing. We were always trying to clean everything up and make everything sound as perfect as possible. And, that's kind of what that sound is good for, but it's not good for what I was trying to do, which is funky, soulful
And you did it
shit.
all by yourself.
Yeah, and no one was saying, hey, you've ruined it. I was just like, so I ruined it. But, whatever. That was just my evolution. I did that.
And how did you get to then, what was the boom? What was the start of the international career and stuff?
Well, no, so then I put that album out, and then I met this guy. Well, okay, so it all happened at the same time. I would, after about 2 years of street performing,
In England,
in Bristol. I started off in Manchester. Then I did it in Brighton and Bristol. And I just drove around, and I also I would email festivals and say, hey, can you give me a free ticket to your festival, and I can street perform around your site? Here's a link to what I do. I'd had like some shitty video somewhere.
Did you link up in Bristol with like local acts? Because Bristol is like the capital for that shit.
Yeah, so when I was street performing, people would come up to me and be like, this is amazing, I love what you do, can you come and perform at my night? I've got a night. So I'd go and perform at all these different nights, and because I was so self-contained, back then I had even less equipment than now. It's just very small setup because it was perfectly designed for the street.
You could play everywhere.
Yeah, and also I would make it so that if the cops came in 20 seconds, literally, I'd be packed up and walking away.
You consider like 500 meters and gone.
Well, or whatever. Like if something went down that wasn't, a bit something hairy. So I would just kind of or if it started raining, like I needed to be able to go bang, pack everything up really quickly. So I had it all very dialed like that. And so I told all these, so I was performing at all these festivals for free at like around, and then the sound man of a festival would come up and say, man, we had a cancellation. Do you want to come and perform on the stage? And I'm like, yeah, sweet. And so like, just, gigs get you gigs. I'd do that gig, and then people come up like, you're amazing. Come and perform on my night here. And I was just getting all these offers to play, but I was also making so much in the street that I was actually saying no to a lot of offers because I'm like,
you're getting more money. I'm losing money on the street.
Exactly. I could make £800 tomorrow. Or I could come and play in your night for £50.
For £50, fucking
not even
night.
£250, man. £50, like, and you're not even. I have to pay my own petrol. So, I was kind of like already in demand, like by that level, just from the street. And then this guy Ben Dowden in Bristol, because I was living there at the time. He saw me and he's like, man, can I film you? And people had already said that to me before. Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, cool, no worries.
But it was already the YouTube period.
No, nothing was on really. Okay. People were putting things on YouTube, but it wasn't. The sound quality was bad because it was just the microphone off their cameras. And the phones back in 2006 was
like
so
today,
shit.
no.
Now they sound actually really good. But back then, they didn't sound good. So it was like people were searching, and because people were buying my CDs, they would search for me on YouTube, but there was nothing good there, so people were like, whatever. This guy bent down and was like, hey, so I'll film you in the street. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, this time I'm going to record it into my, I had like a Zoom recorder. So I recorded the audio, and at the end, I gave it to him. And the funny thing about that video was he was filming with his big camera, because it wasn't the DSLR cameras that came out like in 2008, 2009, they sort of started coming out, these DSLR that would have cinema quality. He was using this big chunky thing, like a BBC style camera.
Like the ones like
pretty much. And it was like, and he was filming me in that. And so people wouldn't stop to watch that day, because they were like, oh, they're filming something, I don't want to get in the way. And, English people would be like, oh, don't want to be in the camera. So I was like, fuck, I hope this guy leaves soon so I can make some money. That was like how I was feeling about that street performance. Little did I know that video would then just explode and have like 35 million views, you know what I mean, one day. But So he filmed it. I gave him the audio. He puts it on YouTube, and literally that's what happened. It just exploded.
And from then on, that's when you took like the international stages, and
that's when people started calling me, and I started getting booked for festivals in countries that I'd never been to. Because before that, I was street performing in Amsterdam. I was street performing in Belgium. I did a little bit in Paris, and I did some in Germany. I drove all around Europe. My plan was to travel and make music on the street and just meet people and have a good time.
Okay.
And that's what I was doing. But then when the YouTube video kicked off, now all of a sudden people in America want to book me, people in Russia want to book me, countries like the first place I got booked internationally was Ukraine. I didn't even know where Ukraine. Yeah, I was like, okay, Kiev, I'll come to Kiev. And they wanted to pay, they could only afford 500 euros, right? And I was like, you know what? I know I can make more money in the street here, but I've never been to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And my whole thing is about traveling and sort of getting the inspiration. So I went and did that. And that was the first time I got there. And I landed, and they didn't even let me through because I brought I didn't have my passport. I had something else, like my identity card, and it's not Schengen, and they didn't let me through. So I had to actually go back to London, and I made a video saying I'm really sorry at the airport, right? And then they showed all the fans, all the people who were meant to come. I got on the plane. I came back 2 weeks later, and it was like Elvis.
It was even
it was crazy.
There was the big publicity stunt.
It seemed like that. And when I got there, there was like literally 500 people in this venue, all screaming, "DubFx!" Right? I'd never had that before.
Ukraine.
In Ukraine. And I did this show, and they all knew the words to the song that was on YouTube, right? And they were like, "Sing rude boy, sing rude boy." So I was like, wow. And so I did that, and that was like my first experience of being known, right? And not being a street performer. And then they're like, "Hey, there was so many people that tried to come tonight, but they couldn't get into the venue. Can we do a street performance tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yeah, cool, no worries." So the next day we went and we did this street performance, and loads of people came and filmed that, because in the Ukraine at that point as well, it was so closed up and it still had that communist vibe. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I did this thing, and it was so cool, and so many people came, and then it just exploded through Eastern Europe. All of a sudden, everyone in Russia wanted me to go and play there, everyone in Poland, and I went and did all these shows all over, and I just started, it just exploded. But I never started a record label or anything like that.
Okay, but at that time, the only backup you had was the live thing, the live CD. I mean, the release you had was the live CD.
Yeah, well, and then around that same time, while I was doing all those Eastern European shows, I'd come back and I'd be working on my album. And then I think I released the album Everything the Crap One in 2009, or at the beginning of 2010 I released it. And then we put out more videos with Ben Dowden, which also went viral as well. And then I basically did 2010, I did this huge kind of world tour, and I was all European tour. And then 2012 I did every year I was just touring like every summer for the entire summer.
And since then, you released how many albums do you have out already?
So, Live in the Street, Everything's a Ripple, Across Worlds, Theory of Harmony.
But those were released on your label. You have your label since when?
Let's be clear. When we say label, it's like my website. You know what I mean? Yes, literally.
Yeah, but it's yours. Everything is yours.
I mean, I created this record label called this identity of a label called Convoy, just so it doesn't sound like it's coming from just me. I wanted to be like, I wanted to create this thing this umbrella that I could release stuff underneath, so that if I wanted to make albums with other people, then it's part of the same record label. And that's kind of what it was. But I've only ever really ended up releasing my own stuff. I did release something with my ex-partner and with this other guy that I was working with, but no one really cared about any of that stuff. My fans just wanted to hear my music. They didn't care about other stuff.
No, we're going to take another song from DubFx that he loves, that is Bushman, Creatures of the Night, and then we'll speak a little bit with Sahida.
Please.
And you come and repeat flesh like you want to eat flesh. Flesh be wise, well, I say seed flesh. I listen last, he send me round yourself to teach flesh. Burn all the fat of it and leaders where I need flesh. Because them only come round yourself to complete flesh. You know seed flesh, they no feed eat flesh. Every morning as me rise, me have to eat flesh. And a vegetarian and we no eat flesh. This is I see I because him on the seed flesh. Of the night, vampires, hypocrites, and parasites. I listen, I give I strength to fight. you know. Neither much for touch, you know. Words go on sound, the rasta brethren use for dust, you know. All virus, you know. All locus, you know. I listen as it teach me, say me no for trust, you know. Hey, I live among the creatures of the night. Vampires, hypocrites, and parasites. I listen as it give I strength to fight. Whoa, I live among the creatures of the night. Vampires, hypocrites, and parasites. I listen as it give I strength to fight. Well, them set them traps and set them snares, hoping they can catch me unaware. Bad influence to stop my train, hoping that the rest of life would end. But it's so impossible. Rasta is inevitable. That is why we leave them dance. Consciousness is unstoppable. You think you're invincible, Vatican, you got no sense. Hey, I live among the creatures of the night. Vampires, hypocrites, and parasites. I listen as it give I strength to fight. Whoa, I live among the creatures of the night. Vampires, hypocrites, and parasites. I listen as it give I strength to fight. Oh Lord, hey, see flesh. I listen as it send me round as a fitty flesh. Burn all the fast prophet and leaders where I leave flesh. Because them only come round as a fit complete flesh. You know see flesh, them no fit eat flesh. Every morning as me rise me a fit eat flesh. Man a vegetarian and we no eat flesh. You still see it because him have to eat this. Whoa, I live among the creatures of the night. Vampires, hypocrites, and parasites. I listen as he give I strength to fight. I live among the creatures of the night. Vampires, hypocrites, and parasites. I listen as he give I strength to fight. Oh Lord, flesh be wise, well. Wise up. Flesh be wise, oh. Realize, open up your eyes. See, I live among the creatures of the night. Vampires, hypocrites, and parasites. I listen as he give I strength to fight.
Yes, I Bushman, Creatures of the Night, another choice from DubFx. And so right now I wanted also
Before we go anywhere, though, we need to do this. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Fernando. Happy birthday to you. Happy
Yes, them
Just for
45.
the listeners out there,
Continue, please.
Special Man's Day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, brother. But I wanted to speak a little bit about Sahida.
Yes,
also
Sahida
a beautiful
Apsara.
wife. And so, Sahida, well, how did you guys meet? That's the story I want to hear.
Everybody wants to hear this story. We met at the airport, actually. We met at the airport in Australia, in Melbourne, because at that point I was just ready to leave. I was over Australia. I was like, there's no good men in Australia. You know, and I was at that stage where I was like ready to meet the man and have the life, the kids. You know, I was just manifesting that, and I just was wanting that, and I thought it wasn't in Australia. So one of my friends, Jake Savona, who's also a reggae producer, and he invited me to...
You know, Kingston, sorry, Havana meets Kingston, the record?
Yeah.
That's Jake Savona.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
He's a
met
friend
him.
of ours.
Yeah.
I met him quickly at a festival.
Cool.
Because the Jake Savona, the Havana meets Kingston was booked in Europe by a friend of mine.
Okay, yeah. So he's a dear friend of mine. We've been friends for over a decade, and he knows that I'm about to go to New York. And he says, let's go to this festival. Let's just have one last final shindig. You know, let's just go crazy. And I got you a ticket. Don't worry, just come. So I got to the airport to go to this festival. And lo and behold, across the room in the distance, there's this white boy with headphones, almost just bobbing his head into the
Not
departure hall.
almost.
Yes,
Definitely bobbing. I was hardcore bobbing. This is at the airport, waiting to board the flight as well.
Yes, and I just felt the vibes, you know. I didn't see his face. I just saw like some white boy like far in the distance, just coming into the departure hall, having a good time, just enjoying life, right? And everyone at the airport looks bored and dead. And suddenly
he was rocking it.
He was rocking it. So I was like, okay, cool, nice vibes, right on, bro. Like whoever you are, I dig that you're having such a good time with yourself, you know. And then we sat far apart from each other. But when the announcement came for us to get on the plane, I noticed this white boy got in line behind me like straight away, and I was like, okay.
And there was this energy flowing. There
was this energy, but I was also thinking like, come on, man, don't open your mouth and come up with some crappy line, because that would just diminish or kill the fantasy in my head that you're a cool guy, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't say anything, which was like amazing. He was just.
Were you about to say something? Were you?
I was waiting for her to smile at me so that she could, because I wait for a cue. Like, I'm not just going to walk up to a girl and start bothering her, you know what I mean? But if that girl shows me that she's interested with a smile, with the eyes, if something kind of gives me like, then I'm like, hey, how you going? What's going on? What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. But she didn't do that. So I just minded my own business.
But then you arrived at the festival?
I know, and then we arrived. We got on the plane set separately. We got to the other side, in the place called, where was that? In Newcastle. And then I got my bags, walked to the bus station to get to the festival, and then he was there. And as I walked towards him, I was like, hey, this dude is so familiar. Like, what? And I'm like, hey, man, are you DubFx?
And I'm like, yes. Yes.
She knows me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, hey, I love your shit, man. Like, I bought your CD. I really dig your stuff, I said something like that.
That's not what you said. What you said was, she goes, the first, it was beautiful mixed with like, kind of like the opposite. You go, I saw you busking in the streets and I heard your voice echoing off the walls of the streets and it was beautiful conscious messages and I bought your CD, but I never listened to it. That's what she said. I was like, yeah, cool.
Yes. And then he was like, oh, nice, thank you. What's your name? And I'm like, I'm Sahida. And he says, what do you do? I say, I'm a poet and I do, workshops and stuff. And he's like, oh, you're a poet, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, spit me something. So I'm like, he put me on the spot and I spit him something, a poem about love. And then he goes, when I finish my poem, he goes, I think I'm in love.
But that's the thing about you too, because you're always so in love. I always love, from when I met you in a source, we'll speak about that too. When I met you in a source, I was like, this couple, they're really in love, man. It's really nice to see that,
Yeah.
And now you have two beautiful daughters.
And at first when he said that, I was like, in my head, oh, that's really sweet and a little bit cheesy, But
do you say that to all the girls and stuff?
But actually, now that we have lived through life and I look back in that moment, he was actually very honest. He's the kind of guy that whatever comes to his brain, he says it.
That's really
to his detriment sometimes.
Yeah, in fact, mainly to my detriment.
But yeah, that's how we met.
I love it when you tell the story.
Yeah.
It's a nice story. But I first met DubFx in 4 years ago in Açores.
That was 2016, bro.
Yeah,
2016.
That was 5 years ago.
5 years ago. And to be honest, with that show, I thought this guy will never work with me again. I'm never going to see him again because of the delayed stuff. And yesterday I realized that on that night, I was out of my mind, first of all, but the people don't need to know that. But there was you remember I had a show in Cabo Verde with Alborosier happening the same day.
Oh, really?
And while your show, because just explain it quickly, Ben was supposed to play at 1 o'clock, and the first at 11 o'clock. And when they landed in Açores, I convinced them through my charm and stuff to play at 1 o'clock. But then when we got to
because who was meant to be played before? Who was?
I don't even remember.
The guy from that movie.
João? No.
The guy
Gilberto,
the Brazilian dude from
Sir Jorge.
Sir Jorge.
Yeah.
He was supposed to play. I was supposed to play at 11. He was supposed to play at 1, and you were trying to convince me to swap with him, so he plays at 11 and I play at 1.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. I've got a flight tomorrow morning, really early. I did a flight. I did a gig yesterday. I've got a gig tonight, gig tomorrow. I can't do that. And you're like, please, man, please. And in the end, Cedar's like, look, man, he's trying really hard. It's like he's got this problem with this other guy who doesn't want to play like later on. I'm like, okay, all right, fine, I'll do it. I'll play at 1 o'clock.
And then we arrived at the venue at midnight, and everything was delayed 3 hours. So we were supposed to go on stage at 3 o'clock. So they stayed literally 2 hours in the tent waiting, and me, I wouldn't even come in the tent. I was
so pissed off. I was like, dude, I could have done my gig at 11 o'clock in the hotel by 12 o'clock.
Yeah, that was
12:31.
But on that same night, and me at the same time, I had Alborosi going to Cabo Verde that missed his flight, that there was no band coming, everything happening at the same time. It was a nightmare. No. But still, I'm glad that now you guys moved to Portugal. So how did you come to Portugal? How did that happen?
Well, man, because we met people like you. And we're like, Portuguese people are so nice. And no, we've just...
No, that's true.
Yeah,
no, it's because I was wondering, why not Italy, for instance? No, you don't feel Italian.
No, it's not that. It's culturally. I love Italy, right? I love playing in Italy and all that stuff. But I think one of the main reasons.
I remember the first time that when we got to Lisbon, I got there a bit later than him, and he's like, "Baby, this place, it's got the vibes." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "There's buskers on the street. Like, you wait and see. I think he got so excited by just the energy of being on the streets. Maybe going back to your history of busking on the streets, that's how you...
It's not just that. It was such a beautiful city. It looked so beautiful. People seemed so free. There was busking everywhere when I was there. Such a pretty city. The food was really good. It was really cheap. Everyone was really nice. And the other thing as well is Sahida said to me, because we were talking about moving to Europe, and I was like, we should move to Eastern Europe. It's really cheap to live there, and I'm kind of famous over there, so I can do loads of gigs. It'll be easy. And she's like, I don't want to be somewhere where I'm the only brown person. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, okay, that kind of limits a lot of Europe, so let's think about it. And then I was like, what about Germany or Berlin? She's like, yeah, we went to Berlin. We're like, yeah, it gets very cold in the winter time. Let's find a place. I'm like, okay, in my head, I'm like, well, where's got brown people and doesn't get cold? And then finally we got to Portugal, to Lisbon, and I was like, this ticks all of the boxes. It's got nice weather. There's lots of brown people. They've got a good scene.
It's got good culture.
Good culture, and it's close to. It's even closer to UK than Eastern Europe. You know what I mean? So we were just like, let's do it.
When you put kids in the mix, like, where would you want your kids to grow up? Mm-hmm. For me, like what he said, it's so important that they live in a multicultural country, that they have culture, that they can access nature. And then there's people...
You have all of that here.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it doesn't feel as... I mean, there's obviously a lot of bureaucracy in lots of countries in Europe, but it feels like people are a bit more relaxed about... Like, they don't get so crazy about the rules. Like, in places like Germany where they're meticulous about the rules. No, like...
But you know why we're so soft? Because, it takes years. Dude, right. Anything you want to do is takes a long
But you know what? I personally have come to this little revelation in my head about how to exist in Portugal and be happy amongst the bureaucracy, is that society is teaching us to slow down, right? Yeah. The whole world is trying you to speed up with technology, everything else. But here, if you expect things to happen when you want it to happen because your ego or your need to be efficient and all these other things make you not be at peace with what is in front of you, then you'll never be happy, right? Yeah. So this is what I feel. Even I struggle with bureaucracy or getting shit done.
She already had the classics from here. She went to one place. No, you need to fix this. You need to go to that place. Yes. She goes to that place. No, that's a classic.
Yeah.
When you told me that, I was like, okay, welcome to Portugal.
Dude, I emailed before I came out. I needed to find some accountants so I could see about setting up, different visa things, businesses, so I could set up. I emailed 6 or 7 different big firms, that must have lots of people working, because they're the big ones that popped up on Google when I was searching. I emailed them. None of them got back to me within a week. In Australia, you get a email back that day saying, hey, listen, we're really busy, we'll get back. But these big firms, no one replied for 10 days. And I was like, wow, these are accountants. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, that's a slow, but I was actually, I liked that. I was like, this is cool. People don't live to work, they work to live.
But, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the vibe I get from Portuguese, right? You're just if I don't have to do that right now, I could go home and be with my family. I'm going to do that. My work is the work, and I'll do whatever it takes to get that done and make my money, but I don't work for you. I work for me, and I do what you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and how is the vibe since you've been here? You like it? You're happy?
Yeah, we love it, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, COVID
Yeah.
has fucked everything up all over the world. So obviously, we're not getting the real Portugal anymore, but it's
Yeah.
still good. It's better than Australia for us.
Yeah, and also just like getting invited to places and meeting other families like us, like we're meeting Portuguese families, but we're also meeting other expat families. And obviously, because they have similar experiences to us in like trying to integrate into this culture that was very new, and knowing that there's that available to us. But like meeting you and having a reconnection with you has been really beautiful to access that. Cause
I was really happy when you guys told me you were coming. I was like, okay, this couple is a very good addiction to Lisboa, and I think it's good that you are
Thank
here.
you, man. Yeah.
Okay, so and you know your music from Portugal because you had. Let's play just a little.
Branco.
Bit. Yeah, Branco. Have you met Branco already?
Well, the song's actually, I think it's by Umi called Populous. I think this is Branco Presents.
Yeah, Branco Presents. It's his label. Enxufada. Aqui vai o Branco, portanto, DubFx knows he's Portuguese also.
I heard this song when I was in Bali.
Hola.
It's all right. And I love I heard it and I was like, what is this? This is so fresh and so cool. And yeah, I just this is one of my favorite tunes. It's inspired me to write one of my songs on my last album, Roots. The song's called Rising Up. It's not anything like it, but it inspired me to write that song.
Então, nosso produtor Tuga Branco. Enxufada, Branco, Umi, escolhido por Benjamin DubFx. Yes, so I just wanted to, because I feel that you guys also are very connected. We were speaking about spirituality and meditations and all that stuff. So how, you practice it still? Is it in
Yes, I still do yoga, but I had a huge journey in India, you know. Like I said before, I was brought up Muslim, and for some reason, I just didn't connect with
Islam.
With Islam, which is something that I hope my parents never hear this broadcast, because I can't believe it's actually out there in the ethers, because it would just break their heart. I mean, I believe in God, I feel God. I couldn't connect with the rituals around, you know, religion or
The dogmatic practice.
Yeah.
Yes, and I feel like I have some ancestry, like, you know, I'm Indian, right? My great grandparents, they're from the motherland. So I went to India, and obviously it was such a strong experience to connect with all of the Vedas and going deep into that study. And I studied it for like over a decade, and I was teaching it, and now it's just part of me, you know, that practice of mindfulness, which is, you know, people think yoga is being on the mat and doing some mantras and doing some poses, but now being with my kids, that's the ultimate yoga. Because what is yoga but an expression of your mind, your body, your traumas? Like, everything is connected, and if you can transcend your ego
and the monkey brain, the monkey mind.
Yeah, and before you do that through meditation by sitting on a mat, right? But now it's like, if my kids are pissing me off, you know, how do I find this calm and this place of mindfulness to respond to them, not from my trigger points,
exactly,
and not from my own conditioning with my parents, but how do I come from love and compassion and empathy and understanding, like, okay, you have a developing brain, it's not your fault that you're doing that or saying that. But if they keep doing that on a daily basis, how can I consistently come to them with love and compassion and empathy, right? And that's yoga.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
everything must come out of love. I'm learning that too. Also, like, it's my birthday today. I'm 45, and I started not so long ago the journey with meditation and all that stuff, and I went into the Wim Hof thing that I know Ben tried also, and I recommend to everybody. And it really goes to. I'm more like now also trying to get into that mindfulness thing, that living the moment, the present moment. Don't think too much about yesterday and tomorrow. Just be focused on today, and trying to take out the love. Everything comes out of love, you know.
yeah.
So then your projects for Lisbon, we're gonna say. I know there's gonna be some shows, maybe from DubFx that's gonna come out.
Well, yeah, we're working on some things together, you and I, man. I mean,
I don't want to ruin the surprise, but he's gonna be performing in Portugal and doing some street performance, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, man. I mean, while I'm here, I kind of would love to get involved with the community side of things more than anything. I'm not here to try and, you know, make money out of the system here and try and do lots of put on big shows to make money. I actually want to do stuff where I get together and work with the locals, you know, whether it's making beats for some of the local hip-hop young guys that are coming up, young girls coming up, make some YouTube videos with some of these people, you know, remixes, whatever, and street perform, spread the love, and do some gigs as well. I kind of had this idea of doing a night where me and Sahida kind of host a night. And you're going to help me with this.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Gonna, you know.
But I was really happy when we first met, when you guys arrived and you told me this. I was like, okay, cool. This guy is coming and he wants to get involved. It's not like, okay, I'm this guy coming here and just want to do big festivals and stuff. But it's good that, because I think the link between you and the local artists can create good things. I think that's really going to be, because Lisbon as you saw, Lisbon is very active music-wise. So I think this can be good connections for you and for the people here. But if the artists want to link you, how can they do that?
It depends. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, through Instagram, I mean, you could just write me a message on Instagram.
You don't check that, though.
I mean, don't tell them that.
You ruined it.
No, I mean, look, there's there.
And then they get in touch with me saying, like, hey.
Yeah, get in touch with Sahida.
Get in touch with Sahida.
No, it's not that I don't check it. I just get so many messages that I do check, but then I don't check everything, and so some things get lost, you know. No, I mean,
but things will happen naturally.
Things happen naturally. I mean, look, you know, there's, you can try and get a hold of me through Instagram, get a hold of Sahida Apsara through Instagram, get a hold of you.
Yeah.
You could email my website. Actually, that's probably the best way. If you go to my website, there's like ways to contact my manager. And my manager isn't one of those managers that doesn't show me anything. Like, he shows me everything that comes through. So even like, I get emails from people saying, hey man, I'm marrying my wife and I really want a video of you saying, hey, congratulations to my wife, blah, blah, blah. And he sends me that stuff. And I send little videos.
Do they ask for the beatboxing stuff?
I do it anyway. I just like, hey guys, fucking, congratulations. That's it. That's what I do. And so it's fun, and it's good though. So you can get a hold of me if you try. That's the truth. That's the reality. And if you only try through one way, through like a message on Facebook, I might not see that. But if you hit everything, eventually you'll get to me for sure.
And like everywhere else, things are starting slowly to your getting back on the road. You have some dates already confirmed that's going to happen, right?
Yeah, I'm going to Serbia tomorrow. Got a gig on
Italy.
You got Italy after the next week after that, and then I don't really look too far ahead in my schedule, but I do have gigs booked in. But I want to do lots of small little things around Lisbon and Porto and Portugal generally. I don't want to do big. I mean, I want to do the big festivals too, sure, but I actually want to.
The big festivals won't happen this year.
Exactly. I want to do lots of little tiny gigs.
Let's do it.
Actually,
Yeah,
in fact, I think I'm doing one. It's not fully confirmed yet, but on the 10th of July, these people that I met, Kula. What's the Altera?
They live from Sintra.
They live up in Sintra way.
They're like beautiful, like down to earth.
But I'm doing a small little gig with those guys. It's like for 80 people or whatever, and it's just like it's more like a wellness conscious kind of party vibe. Altera Hub is his place, and they just do. It's more like meditation, healing workshops, dance workshop, African dance stuff.
Okay.
And
it's the one you went to the other day that I didn't know with you?
Yeah.
I saw the video. The video was nice. Right? Everybody was...
Really nice crew there, man. And I met, is it Pedro from Blasted Mechanism?
Yeah,
he was
course.
there.
I know him.
I love that band, man. I was listening to them.
Blasted, they're wicked, man.
Yeah,
they're wicked.
And he's just saying like there's this whole community up there. He's got a kindergarten up there, and he runs lots of workshops for kids. And
So I mean, I want to get involved at that level. I want to do these small little kind of parties and fests because obviously a lot of those people think, I can't book DubFx because it costs too much, and a lot of in other countries they're right. But I live here and I don't care. I'm not going to fly to Germany to do a gig for 80 people. You know what I mean? But if I can drive 20 minutes, I don't mind. That's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and also in Australia, I used to run events for women and create a platform for women singer-songwriters and poets because that's my main art form.
She actually did a huge poetry night, like in Melbourne. One of the best poetry nights in Melbourne for years.
But that stuff I think you can do a lot of things here because there's not much going on.
Yeah, you should do that.
Yes, and I feel that. And also when people come together and they listen to stories, like it's a platform for women to share stories, but it's not just for women audience, it's for everyone. But I just feel passionate about creating a platform for women to share their stories from different cultures. And I feel passionate about doing that here, and I've already spoken to a few people, and Emily's going to help me out with that. And
you will make it happen for sure.
I will, yes.
So you can find all the info on DubFx.com, right?
That's one way, yeah. Okay. Or you can just follow me on Instagram or Facebook.
And
all
Sahida
Apsara?
Sahida, Sahida _Apsara.
Apsara.
Yeah, but if you go to DubFx Instagram, I'm everywhere.
She's everywhere, all over the place.
But you know what an Apsara is? It's a goddess from the clouds. It's an Indian thing. So that's what an Apsara. That's why I've got on my arm. I've got an Apsara there. That's actually Sahida Apsara. That's my wife.
Okay, so beautiful.
But yeah, that's what she is, man. She's a dancer from the clouds.
She's amazing.
Thank you so much,
man.
guys. But also, it's like Apsara is like a celestial dancer, and then Gandharva is like a
male version,
a musician. So it's so funny. I mean, people keep saying like, "Oh, you guys are so loving and stuff." But even in our personal lives, we had this vision of each other, and I feel like, without trying to like be super cheesy, we always believe in that. We've always believed in that kind of love.
Of finding the perfect person
for you.
Yeah, I wish I will find mine and get something like that. Right now,
believe, man.
But man, a strong man and a strong woman now living in Lisbon. So nice to have you guys. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having us, man. This last tune you're going to play is, I recommend, if anyone, when I first got here and I was telling people I make drum and bass, they're like, I don't really like drum and bass. I'm like, and then they told me the kind of drum and bass they listen to here. And here there seems to be the drum and bass scene is like that very angry,
especially in Porto. Porto was like the town for the
I've never liked that stuff, and I've been listening to drum and bass for like about 15 years. There's this stuff called liquid drum and bass and the rugged drum and bass, which comes out of like Hospital Records or Digital Soundboy, which is Shy FX's label. This one we're going to play is digital soundboy. Such a great tune, and this is the drum and bass that I like to play and like to make. So this is much better than mine. Check it out.
And the song is called Bye Bye Bye, so perfect for finishing. So obrigado, Gonçalo, por
Bye Bye Bye.
apoio técnico. Thanks to Criativa for having us. And
Obrigado.
Obrigado ao casal lindo. Um abraço para todos e vemos-nos para semanas. Ficamos com Bye Bye Bye, Chronics, FX, SPY Remix.
Ciao, ciao, ciao. Tune.
She said, do you wanna be loved? Do you wanna be touched like you never been? If I gave you my heart, would you pull it apart and make a runaway? I don't wanna play silly games, we've grown now. Daddy never stayed. So if you're the same, you can run now. And I said bye, bye, bye. I said bye, bye, bye. And I said bye, bye, bye. And I said bye, bye, bye. I don't wanna play. Daddy never stayed. So if you're the same, you can run now. And I said bye, bye, bye.